picking colours is one of the most enjoyable things for us artists to play with. And I don't know about you, but I just love being inspired by colour. So my piece today is one of my own practice pieces from my junk journal. It's mostly acrylic paint, but there will be some pencil work that turns up later. And I did this piece as just a simple play with colour, and just to work out where it would turn up, just do some exploring and not worry about anything else really. So this is a fun practice to do, just play with getting your colour down, seeing where it leads, and you don't really have to think about form or anything else really, so it's going to be pretty abstract. So I thought today might take a more relaxed approach, talk you through one of my art sessions and the processes that I went through in this and how this piece came together. Just give you a little glimpse behind the scenes of what an art session looks like for me. And it's one piece out of a session that I think I did at least 7 or 8 pieces in. The strange thing was that all of the pieces that I did in that session were quite different. And you might already have seen some of them if you've been watching my channel recently, because I've already done a few projects that have turned up here on YouTube, and also my patrons, big wave to patrons, you will have already seen some as well over on Patreon. So I shared the head a few weeks back here on YouTube, or if you remember Mr. Fishy from last week, and then there was the prompt art flow video from a couple of weeks back. So all 3 of those were done in this same session. And then I did 2 very different floral styles for my video fanatics over on Patreon. So I'll leave a link to all of those videos if you wanted to go and have a look at sort of just what came out of that one session and compare the different pieces. You'll also find in the description below there are the names of all the colours that I'm using in today's video. So it was a very productive art session. I do love the productive ones. They're really good fun. It's nice when you can get into a flow and just get a lot done. I mean, you don't have to get a lot done. You could do an art session where you're doing one piece, that's fine. But it was just one of those sessions where I did a few different pieces. And sometimes I'll do these abstract pieces like this as a way of warming up and get me launched into an art session. But I think that this one was actually one that came along later in that session. At the time when I started this piece, I think it was on my mind to build up layers for a more complex piece. But as I got to the point where I'm now calling it the end for this piece, I just liked it too much to add anything more to it, so it became a finished piece in its own right. Sometimes it can be hard to know when a piece is finished. Sometimes it's just kind of there. You just don't feel that you want to add any more to it. It feels complete. And this one did just resist me adding any more to it, so. I feel like some of my brush strokes and use of colour is getting looser and freer in my own practice, and I really enjoy that. I can't tell you specifically why, unless it's the whole abandonment of caring. You know, the ability to just let go, not worry about outcomes, not have any pre-ideas of where you want it to go, and just enjoy being in the moment. And it's something I talk about a lot on my channel. So for something like this, I make a deal with myself that I will just put the colour down, put the marks down, and not worry about where it goes, if it will work. it is a state of mind that for a lot of us requires practice. I've said before many a time that I am an overthinker, so I try to practice not being an overthinker when I do pieces like this. So often when I'm working on many pieces in one session, I'll jump about from piece to piece, and that's another thing I talk about a lot in my videos. You've heard me say it before, and for me it helps me to keep the pieces flowing, to let go of pieces as well, so you don't get too attached to one piece at a time. And also, on a practical level, it's really useful to be able to let pieces dry and work on something else. I'm just not patient enough, so if I'm just working on one thing and I have to let that dry, I probably wouldn't. I would just keep on working on it. I can become very hyper-focused when I'm working, and if I was only working on one piece, then that would have just all of my focus, whereas if I spread that hyper-focus across a few pieces, then I can keep things moving, let things dry, and just keep the momentum going. Otherwise, I would literally just get distracted and not do any art. I'd probably end up doing something else entirely different. So this piece was done between working on other pieces, and I can tell because as I'm putting footage together, the files aren't sequential. So it looks like a seamless flow, except for a bit where I lost the footage. Sorry about that. But in fact, this piece did have a lot of stops and starts. But the stops and starts were literally just to put in a layer and then let that layer dry whilst I did something else. There wasn't any point on this flow, on this piece, where I was lost and didn't know what to do, or where I was overthinking it. But pretty much every time you see me change up a colour, then that's me coming back from working on another piece. This piece is very rich with jewel tones, but in that art session I was actually working on a mix of jewel toned projects and earth tones as well. And it was only really after the session, when I was putting together a photo and looking through the footage, that I realised that there had been this split in projects, that some of them were earth tones and some of them were jewelled. It was purely accidental that session sort of worked out like that. It wasn't by design, it was just the way it went. I really love the big brush marking in this piece and how it's reflected in that pencil work too. I also love how there are two sides to this painting, and they could be divided into two separate pieces. Each page seems to be its own identity, but I actually like how that works together as one whole piece and one double page. I hope this sharing of my process today is making you want to go and get your paints out and play with your colours. I hope also that it's given you a little bit of a glimpse at just one of the ways I work. It's kind of interesting to hear how different people work, isn't it? And compare it to our own ways of working. We all have our own different ways of doing things. So, you know, there's no brilliant, perfect way of doing it. The way you do it is just the way you do it. But I do like hearing when other people share about their process and how they do the art that they do. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you need some more mixed media inspiration, then watch these videos next. And keep on looking after yourself. And if you can, being creative. And I will see you next time.